Hello and good morning. My name is Richard Miller, and welcome to Never Not Here. We talk about so many things, and we try to talk many times about what is it to be human, or kind of put some basic understanding on what should I call it? The marvelous capacities that we have. And of course, one capacity is to know and to understand, and somehow fit it all into place, fit all our experiences. One thing is just to have experiences, and to be able to catalog them and file them and refer to them. And so then the way that works is we have a memory, and that memory is made up of basically pictures and thought patterns. Even the picture is a thought pattern, and that is why we have, I would say, time. I don't know if that's too metaphysical to say that, but if we didn't have a memory or a picture of yesterday or 1 second ago, how would we know that there's a progression? We wouldn't really notice the difference and change. And so then that overlay of that memory somehow gives us our continuity. And in that sense, it gives us our identity, because our identity is that guy that does this, that, and the other, has these patterns, and is this person. Our personhood comes from our memory. And so then what I'm saying is, in a way, there's like two facets of existence, and one is just in this moment, and that's reality, and that's like where all substance is. And the other is the overlay of that, is the interpretation of it. And you can even go farther, because somehow this place, this moment, this existence, this beingness, might be where all satisfaction is. Or satisfaction is just here, because there's no dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction is something that we create. And so then in our thought patterns, there can be dissatisfaction, there can be satisfaction too. I mean, it's a rewarding place to live, and it's really interesting if you can move back and forth in those two precepts. In other words, what do I mean? I mean with your attention, move your attention back and forth. So then I want to say that sometimes continuity seems comfortable because we know what we can expect. And other people are willing to play the same game, and so we can actually call people to behave in a certain way, and we can expect that if I work for a guy, that I'm going to follow the rules of the company and do my job and so on. And so in that sense, there is a continuity. It's just by mutual agreement. And so I'm going to suggest that that's a comfort zone. And then sometimes that comfort zone is also a boring zone. And then on the other side, there's the exciting zone, or the fearful zone, or the zone like hey, where I don't really pay much attention to that overlay. And then that is like a fresh zone, totally new, totally exciting. And I'm going to say it's peaceful, and it's really where all satisfaction lies. And then we drift as human beings. We get bored of comfort, and then we try to go out and have an adventure. And then we get overstimulated by adventure, and then we go back to comfort. And comfort is a mind thing. And this is just I'm positing this so for your consideration. And so then, what are we talking about? In a way, we're talking about death, or a little death, like the death of this moment. If we want to have this moment be alive, we make a concept out of it and we store it. And if we want to have a fresher, newer moment, we throw this moment away and let it die. And so then this manifests in many places. In one place it manifests is in your basement, in your attic, in your file drawers. And we call it clutter. And so thanks for listening to my long-winded introduction, but please help me welcome Brooks Palmer.
Richard.
Hi, Brooks.
Hey. Richard, I love the title of your show, Never Not Here.
Aha!
Great. It's a great title.
It came in a flash, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's good. I would like a T-shirt that says that.
Oh yeah, that's what I got to do is come up with a series of products, right?
Maybe it helps. Yeah, you never know. It's good
I
publicity.
got to get a really good designer to give me a good logo or something that really looks sharp. Never not here.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good idea.
I'm
So,
I'm totally interested in your activity called clutter busting, and I think it can go throughout our whole life and not just in our attic and our basement and our file drawer.
yeah, my definition of clutter is anything in your life that's no longer serving you. So it could be an activity outside the house. It could be um, furniture in your home. It could be something at you're at work, something in your closet. It's really anything that's no longer that you no longer love, that's no longer taking care of you in some way. And it's often that it's natural that we have a lot of things that are clutter because there's one point where something serves us and then there's a point where it stops. And we don't, our attention goes on to the things that really matter to us. So the things that don't matter anymore are in the background and unnoticed and sitting there. And there's something about clutter that creates a stagnant, chaotic effect in people's homes and lives. And so my job is to help people ferret that stuff out, to find it and get rid of it, basically.
In people's homes and lives and minds, right?
Yeah, their minds, sure. You never know. I mean, when I'm working with somebody, they may say something that's pretty revealing about how they see the world and not even realize it. I mean, our beliefs are so ingrained and so much a part of us that we don't even question them and look at them, even if they're causing us pain.
Well, they're so constant, It's like the fish in the water doesn't know the water, so we're the fish, and then our
Yeah.
beliefs are the water, which is it's not changing that much, especially if we're not looking at them, And then it's so hard to see what doesn't change. I mean,
You can't see what doesn't change.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. Yeah.
A lot of times I give a metaphysical explanation and say that the reason the moment is always in motion is so that we would see it, because otherwise it won't hit the radar. We wouldn't exist in the way we exist now.
Yeah, you could say that, sure. I mean, and change is happening anyway. I mean, nothing stays the same. Things are always changing. So you get a lot of opportunities to notice what's around you and what's making you happy and what actually isn't.
So everything that has substance, we say, it changes, and everything that doesn't have substance, which are conceptual based interpretations, may or may not change. We can change them slower, and maybe hanging on to them is what is a real pain, because they get farther and farther and farther away from the substance of life.
Over 20 years ago, I learned how to meditate. And I was really excited about meditation. It's like, oh, now I want to meditate all day long. And I took meditation courses, and I was very involved in it. And then over time, my connection to that started to fade over the years. And then it became less important to me. But I would still do it. I would still meditate. And then I realized, this is serving me. This feels like a drag to sit here and meditate. And not to belittle the time that I spent meditating before, but at the point where I was discovering what was going on, it wasn't nurturing me anymore like it used to be. And so I let it go. And so even something like a real subtle activity that provides benefit, when it stops providing benefit, it's good to notice that and let it go, because something else will take its place, something more useful.
I have a kind of an insight that maybe because I did it for so long and it was kind of in my family, but we
Sure.
used to think that we're kind of like on the poor side, and that therefore the things with value we'd kind of collect and hang on to. And so then
Sure.
if you have that syndrome that says that I'm lacking, then it's very easy to accumulate clutter, because you could say, well, I don't need this, but there's a value to it, and I'm not going to just throw it out. I mean, but
Yeah, that's funny. That comes up a lot. I'm glad you brought that up. people, I'll say like, do you like this? No, I don't. Can we let it go? No. Why? Well, I spent a lot of money on it. But do you like it? No, I don't like it. So I tell them that if it's not serving them, it has no value. I mean, to hang on to something, people will tell me the value. This cost me $2,000. I can't let it go. It's so funny to watch people defend the need for that, because they look really pained while they're talking about it. They look very depleted, like there's a kind of a bleakness and a paleness to their face, and their voice sounds weak, and they're defending this thing. It's like holding onto an anchor while it's sinking to the bottom of the lake.
It's somehow security, because it just feels like I'm, if you're in a belief structure that I'm lacking, that means like I don't have enough money and I can't really, I don't really have all the goods and assets that I need to operate in the society. Then this is very interesting, because we're talking on one side about clutter, but we're also talking about abundance and about lack or scarcity in the same discussion, and they're very tied together.
Yeah, I mean, I really think, Richard, that we're taught what's valuable. Like society tells us these are the valuable things, and so you must hang on to them because that's where the value is. And meanwhile, we miss out on what's valuable and what provides us security on a natural level for us. And what I discovered is when people start letting these things go that they invested themselves in security-wise, when they start to discover like, wow, this isn't helping me, they start feeling better, and they more open space. They get this open space around themselves that actually provides a tremendous more amount of comfort than the things that they were hanging on to.
Is it comfort, or is it just satisfaction in the moment, and actually satisfaction and love and peace and all these things? But it might not be comfort.
Yeah. Well, it's a semantic thing. I mean, it provides something that's very nourishing.
Nourishment, absolutely.
Yeah, we need open space. We need a sense of quietness around us. That doesn't mean we live in a stripped out room with nothing in it, but we have the things that we love, and we let go of the things that are distracting and draining us. There's this peace of mind that comes from being around the things that really do matter to us, and being away from the things that were distracting and draining us. But the main thing is to get it out of your house. And if you try to sell it and nobody wants to buy it, then you can just give it away. And the quickest way out of the house is the best. I have a lot of clients who they've been hanging on to something for a couple of years because they want to sell it on eBay, but they just haven't gotten around to it now. And so some people's nature is to sell stuff, and some people's nature is just to donate it.
Okay, we all have our photo albums, right? Are they worth a damn? I mean, we'd keep them. We never look at them, Okay, then when my mom died, there was photos all over the place, and from every age, and from relatives I didn't even know. They were older than they were from the turn of the 1900, and
right. So the main thing is, you said nobody looks at them, right?
Nobody does look at photos, right? I mean, they do every 10 years or something.
Right. So that's your feeling about them, and that's the thing to look at, because some people. I mean, my experience is most people don't look at photos, but some people do. They have photo albums and they take them out, and the family looks at them and they enjoy looking at them. But most people tend to take pictures, look at them maybe when they come back from the store or on their computer, when they download them, and then they don't look at them again. And so it's kind of a way of capturing the moment, but then not doing anything with it afterwards. So if you're not looking at them, then these are the kind of things I encourage you to question and go, well, maybe I can let this go. Because as a society, we're encouraged to have pictures. You're supposed to take a picture of every important event and make everybody pose for it, and often those pictures look kind of stilted. The people are like, or somebody has a blinking, one eye closed or both eyes closed, or it's blurry. You never know. But if you're not relishing it and enjoying it, then it's really not a part of your life, and you have the total freedom to go, I don't want this. Then I'm going to let it go because it's my house, and if I'm not using it, then I want to let it go. Because what do you love in your house, Richard?
I guess I love all my cameras.
You love your cameras. You do? Yeah? You like to take pictures?
No, my movie cameras, what I'm doing right now, the one aimed on you.
Oh, great. So you love this, and this is part of your life.
Yeah, that's current.
Yeah, and you're using it. And you sound very certain about it when you talk about it. Like you feel like there's vitality coming out of you.
Well, I got extra stuff, Sometimes I pick up wires, and I pick up microphones that I'm not using, or maybe that I'll never use, and maybe I'll put some more stuff on Craigslist and thin it out a little bit. But I mean, what you're saying is really totally radical. That you don't have a past, because I mean, even the pictures you watch, you look at every 10 years, you'll see an old relative that you haven't seen for 25 years, you pull out a picture and say, oh, look, this is how you used to look when you were 18, and oh my God, now he's 60, right? I mean, that's kind of like an amazing kind of like, there's something to that you could just say, well, there's that same spirit, and that's how it used to look. And
yeah, sure. So if you enjoyed that, that's great. I do encourage people to look through their photographs and pull out the ones that they just don't care about at all, and keep the ones that they do love, because there's just going to be at least half the pictures you take you're not going to care about because they're blurry or they're
Well, I mean, now it's different because now it's all digital, it's online, and then you lose that folder, that hard disk freezes up sooner or later or something like that. It kind of thins itself out in a way, but it's so thick. But I mean, I don't even take photos. I mean, of course I'm taking photos. I take photos actually at 30 per second. And I've got many terabytes of those, and then after 2 or 3 years, maybe I'll dump those. But and the only reason I keep them is because I've got hours and hours and hours of work editing them, and so then I could maybe grab an excerpt, or someone says, "Let's do a movie," and we'll take little bits out of here and there, and But I mean,
so you use them and you love them. That's great.
Yeah,
and I think that can be the guidepost if you're interested in checking out your place and seeing if there's clutter there. This could be a guidepost. Like, I love making these TV shows, these films. Like, that's how you feel, and that's something that's not clutter. That's something you love.
Even the old shows don't hold that same kind of love. I got 20 terabytes of film. It's just ridiculous. But I mean, at least it has a back door, because some are falling out, and it's not that I've got every last thing that I ever did. So there is kind of like a leak in the bucket.
Oh, falling out, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, every once in a while I say, oh boy, that is really old, and I wipe out a terabyte or two.
That's good. Whatever you.
Yeah, but I still haven't got a huge collection of, but it's just like, this represents like, thousands of hours. And so then I'm not so sure that it's of value, but I'm not so sure that I want to just toss it either. But.
Oh, well, if we were working together today and I was at your house and you wanted to go through that stuff, we would look at one thing at a time and go, this particular thing you shot, do you still care about it, or can we let it go? I mean, that's kind of that's the way to do clutter busting, is to look at one thing at a time and ask yourself, do I still care about this or not? And see how you feel. You're the best judge of what's right for you and what isn't.
You would have a field day over here.
Yeah.
I got a load, And then I'm just trying to get a little more thinned out and give a little time to that, doing some things. We've got piles and piles in the basement, and I'm running maybe 5 to 8 things on Craigslist at a time. Is there a tendency that to fill, if you have a space, to fill it? In other words, you just feel like, okay, I got this big roof and it's free, so I'll just put a few things in this room, and I'll put a few things in this room, and I got this big basement, and it just, it just has a tendency to fill up by itself, right?
I think that's a law of nature, probably. I mean, I tell people, because oftentimes clients will have, every kind of surface will be covered. Tables or counters, anything that's flat and open, we have a tendency to want to put something on it. It's just it's like a vacuum. It wants to be filled. And so that's a good thing to. That's a good place to start looking for clutter.
It's amazing that actually
Open
people
spaces.
what should I say, support that, because they sell something called knickknacks, right?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a discomfort sometimes with open space. It's like with open space where we tend to be more sensitive, so we're going to notice our feelings more, and because there's less distractions, and sometimes we have some uncomfortable feelings, you know, like maybe we have some feelings about our life that's uncomfortable, or about the people in our life, or what we're doing, and so rather than acknowledge or experience those feelings, we get a distraction so we can cover that up. And so oftentimes people will buy stuff to fill the space, to create distractions, so that because there's some kind of discord inside themselves that they're really uncomfortable with. And I think that's the case for everybody, and oftentimes when people are getting rid of stuff, there's some uncomfortable feelings that come up.
Often? What do you mean? Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, not for everybody, but in a lot of cases, some discomfort comes up, and it's not about anything in particular. It's just present in the person, and in a way, it's kind of being aired out because it doesn't last very long. It rises up, and then it doesn't go anywhere, and then it just kind of fades out, evaporates, and I think in a lot of cases, those feelings have been there for a while, but the presence of the clutter and the distractions have allowed it to stay and upset our lives. I mean, we can live as human beings, we can live with discomfort and get used to it, and it can start to seem normal.
Well, that's called numbing, isn't it?
Yeah, and our culture is really good at it. It's encouraged, and I understand. I mean, if you watch the news, there's a lot of the sky is falling on the news. It's like, oh my god, just watch the news for an hour, and there's a lot of scenarios that are presented, like what if this could turn into something really bad, this could just destroy everything. And like with the government's credit rating being downgraded, there's a lot of panic in the news, and so we're encouraged to think in a panic sort of way.
Well, I mean, even the law's that way. I mean, they'll say, you went too fast. I said, well, there's no one on the road. Well, if there was someone, you would have hit him. Well, I said, well, if there was someone, I wouldn't have gone too fast. Because I just go fast enough and I didn't get a speeding ticket, but anyhow, I mean, that's how it works, right? I didn't.
Yeah. Well, mainly, I think everybody's looking for ways. And some way or another, they're looking for a way to have more peace of mind. And
that's a given. That's a given.
Yeah. And I think a lot of products are advertised as, if you buy this thing, you'll get peace of mind. This will make you happy. I mean, there's an advertisement for Coca-Cola I saw the other day. It was a billboard in it, and there was a Coke bottle, and the lid was off, and all these colors were coming out, and it said "Open Happiness."
Yeah.
So we're trained to believe that we need things to be happy, like we're inherently unhappy. So, you see a commercial and the person's got a problem, and they get this product and suddenly they're okay again. They're really happy. And so we're trained that we need things to be happy. But my experience is, and this isn't a downgrade things, because I think you can get a lot of pleasure out of the things that matter to you. But what I notice is when people let go of these things that they're hanging on to that aren't serving them, they start to feel really joyful, naturally, without obtaining anything, And so that's why I can really feel strong enough to question the value of the stuff that we keep in our homes.
Here's one for you. Now, this just came to me as a brainstorm, and I'll explain it in a second. But I mean,
sure.
I was dealing with some ladies that were concerned about electromagnetic radiation, and they had a way to kind of change a house or to protect rooms or somehow to absorb radiation or not to generate it from certain things. And they would do what they called first priority was to make a sleep sanctuary, because while you're sleeping in horizontal, you're more helpless to things that are you're more vulnerable, let's say, to things that could be impinging upon your body. And so
Sure.
what about having a clutter-free zone? Like, okay, let's take a one room, like even a small room. Let's say it's got a hardwood floor, so it's not a carpet.
Mhm.
Let's say the walls are painted white. We take all the furniture out, and we put one simple chair and maybe one light in there. And then just let people go into that environment and just say, okay, now this is what it's like to be without clutter. And maybe it's a meditation room, maybe it's a reading room, or I mean, it's just a simple thing that has one thing in it. This one lamp, for instance, this one chair, so you can be there, and it's all white. Let's say it's not even colored. There's nothing on the walls. I mean, what about that? I mean, that would be kind of like a cool way to kind of immerse yourself in the whole idea of it, of clutter busting.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. I mean, maybe you should give it a try and see how it feels since you brought it up.
Yeah, maybe I
Now,
could. I don't know if I've got the room that isn't filled. I used to, but I mean, that could also be like part of your therapy, or like, okay, we're not going to have we won't throw this out, but let's just make this one room clutter free, and then you'll see. Can you feel better here, or do you feel worse here, or what's the difference between the comfort of the clutter, or the perceived comfort of the clutter, and the actual opportunity of the open space?
well, my experience is that, like the last week, I was working with this client, and her kitchen, there was no room to cook anywhere. There was just papers and junk amidst the papers piled up on all the counters, on all the any kind of flat surface, and even on some areas of the floor. So there's no space in there for her to cook for herself. And I said, well, it's really important for you to, that's your first priority, is to nourish yourself and take care of yourself and feed yourself. So we started by clearing out one drawer in the kitchen, and we threw out about 90% of the stuff in the drawer. And when we were done with that drawer, like she wanted to close the drawer right away, but I had her leave the drawer open, and then I had her look in the drawer, and I asked her how it felt. And at first she said, well, it looks really nice and all that. And I said, no, just tell me how it feels to you physically. When you look at that, how does it feel? And she started to breathe. You could really hear her take a big breath in. And I could see that she relaxed. And she just said, this feels really good. I really love this feeling. So I presented it to her, like I shined a light on this thing that she had just done, so she could notice the benefit of having a space without clutter in it. And it was a concentrated space. It was just the drawer. But I wanted it to be a tangible experience for her so she could notice it. So in a sense, what you were talking about, that room, I do with clients by just, as we start to get rid of the clutter, I start to have them notice the space as it's starting, the open space as it's starting to happen. And so that they can recognize that and start to cherish it, because it does feel good. And sometimes we do have to stop and notice and go, I got rid of this stuff, and this really is treating me nicely. And I like this. And it's learning a new feeling. It's learning a feeling that, because before we thought I needed this thing to be happy. And now I'm realizing that my peace of mind is the most valuable thing I've got. And this helps make that more a part of my life.
Somehow you're totally right that you have to set that. You have to set that feeling, because otherwise I could, when you told me that story, I thought, well, just in the moment you walk out the door, all that junk on the counter is going to be in that drawer, and it'll be just exactly like it was before. And
Yeah.
somehow you have to set it.
Well, it's breaking the pattern. And the best way I found to break a pattern is through gentle awareness. Rather than saying, like, scolding a person, if you're living like this, it's a bad thing for you. Or why do you do this to yourself? I found it's a lot easier just to help start to clear things away and ask the person, how does this feel to you? It's a gentle, nourishing way that allows a person to go, I like this. I think I would like to choose this, versus having everything, having a drawer stuffed full of things, And it's teaching a person to be kind to themselves, because I think as a culture, we're not taught how to be kind to ourselves. And we're kind of taught to push ourselves or be hard on ourselves to accomplish things. And I think that kind of encouragement works a lot better.
In one way, it seems like you should have referrals from psychotherapists. I mean,
Sometimes I
you
do.
should hook up with a bunch of them. And then in another way, it looks like you should be doing psychotherapy, or you are.
I don't know. I don't know anything about psychotherapy, so
Well, it's clearing a space. It's definitely
yeah,
clearing a space and clearing out the clutter. And the clutter is all your limitations and your fears and your hurts.
yeah, yeah. I could see that. It's creating a space inside,
Right.
and so
Yeah, you could put on a team of 10, just to try to keep up with the psychotherapist's referrals, because everything needs to be done there's a seed, or there, even when we talk about the spirit and then the manifested form. And so then the spirit and the mind might be cleared out, but somehow to keep it, you need to clear out the manifested form, which is like the environment. And so then those two things need to be worked on together.
yeah. There's lots of different approaches.
And then, I mean, if you just work on the environment, okay, it can be helpful to the mind, but I mean, the mind is still cluttered, and so then the environment's going to reclutter immediately.
Yeah, that's why I like to do both. I mean, the tangible, picking something up and going, do you like this anymore? Would you buy this if you're in a store today? Or can you just let it go? There's something very matter of fact about that. And then there's pointing out, how does this feel now that these things are gone? So that they start to learn how to relish having a quieter space inside too. And I think there's a lot of retraining. And I think that's the main benefit of clutter busting.
When we're really looking inside, and when we're starting to question, well, like, who is this guy that's walking around in this body? And what are all the accoutrements that I collect, and my credentials and my perceived identities and so on. And then when people have experiences, even ones that just come by chance or what they call by grace, they realize that a lot of those things aren't so important, or they lose their reality. Now, sometimes, spiritualists will talk about what's real and what's not real, and they'll just make a real dichotomy out of it. But I like, in a way, better what you're doing is just saying, does this serve you or does this not serve you? But what people discover when they're on some kind of a search is that there's not much substance to so many things. And it feels like a loss, because what I thought I had, well, it doesn't really matter to me anymore, or I'm realizing that it's not even real, it's not made of anything. And when people have deeper and deeper experiences, they talk about the void, and they talk about nothingness and so on like that. And sometimes there's pain to it, because some part of us is used to being full of things, and some part of us is scared when those things aren't there. And so then clutter busting goes really, really deep, I mean, it's anyone on a spiritual search is actually clutter busting or thinking about it. And
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of value in that, and really taking an honest look at how we see ourselves and what we value and what we don't actually care about. There's tremendous benefit to that. And maybe it might be awkward at first and uncomfortable to look, because we're certainly not encouraged to do it in the world. We're more encouraged to really pull stuff in and identify ourselves with our things and what we do. And again, there's nothing wrong with the things that we do and the things that are in our lives. But to question them that's an okay thing. It's okay to question what's in our life and how we live our lives, because we're not going to get rid of anything that we love and that makes us happy. But if we can get rid of the things that we don't love and that aren't serving us, then we end up really enjoying the things that really do matter to us.
There's some very deep philosophical connotations here, because if we kind of try to trace what is this collection bug we got, and if we look at our society and we look at our relationships. Okay, we have some close relationships of family, mother and father, and then spreading out from there, and then our own family. But most of our relationships are commercial in nature in this day and age. In other words, we're buying stuff, we're consuming stuff, and people are selling stuff. And and stuff is a pretty important what should I say factor in these kind of commercial activities. And even I mean, it takes a big jump for a lot of people to actually pay for services. And they think like, okay, if I buy stuff, I should get the manual of how to use it. So then software should be free, consultation should be free, customer service should be free. You know, I don't want to pay for that stuff, and I just want to pay for stuff. And so then stuff is like you can sell it much easier than you can sell no stuff. Or, you know, like, I mean, medicine, and what I say often is that we live in an additive culture, and we're always looking for one thing more to put on top to make things work. And so then, like, if you go to your doctor, he prescribes pills, so that's stuff, you know. He doesn't really say go home and throw up and don't eat that crap anymore. Because there's really no money. He can't sell any pills. He can't sell your throw up. You know, I mean, empty yourself. And instead of adding, subtracting. What about subtracting? So you are really in a counterculture. You're really something that is really not a part of our day-to-day belief structure that I want to gather.
No, it's not. It's quite it goes the opposite way. But I think the way the circumstances of things as they are today are perhaps encouraging this this particular way of looking at things, because for a while there was so much money and credit, and people could get whatever they wanted whenever they wanted it, and so it was a constant stream of things coming in. It was very simple to do. And now that things have been restricted somewhat economically, people aren't able to go in that direction as readily as they used to be. And so they're kind of left with the things that they have in their home often. And there's a dissatisfaction that comes. And in some ways, it's a breaking of an addiction. And I encourage people to go in that direction. And take a look and see what comes up for them, because there's a freedom that isn't available in the other way of living. That's available by letting go of the things that aren't taking care of you and relishing the things that do take care of you.
Do you ever talk about addictions? Because I mean, shopping is an addiction, and then when we feel bad, we go shop. You know, some people go eat, some people take beers or alcohol or drugs. Some people go shop. Some people watch movies and television. I guess there's sexual engagements. There's so many different things that are addictive, and collecting is definitely one of them, right?
Well, I think for some reason, human beings tend to have an addictive nature in some ways or another. Right? I think it's almost like built in, and everybody's different. You know, some people could be addicted to alcohol, and another person could be addicted to shopping. And usually what happens is, if an addiction changes, the person realizes, like, this thing, this activity, whatever it is that I'm addicted to, is hurting me. And that can't be pushed on a person, or they can't be told that and then go, oh yeah, you're right. It comes from within. There's a sense like, living this way is hurting me, and I'm no longer getting any benefit from it. I can't be numbed by it anymore. All I'm feeling is the pain, and I don't want to live this way anymore. And that's usually how an addiction starts to dismantle. And so, if a person has an addiction to shopping, then they stop getting any benefit from it. They're mostly just feeling the pain from it. And so it's questioning, like, wow, this is, I don't want to live this way anymore. And I want to feel happy. And these things aren't making me happy. So it really takes that noticing, but it's really an inside job. And so if you're lucky, if you have an addiction and you're lucky enough to have that insight, then maybe some change can happen.
So, when you say like, so many people have an addictive nature, in other words, you're saying like even if they're pulled away from one addiction, they swing on to another one. But really, the addiction maybe doesn't have that much power, but what the nature is to escape something, escape some kind of a pain or perceived pain. Or this, it could be the perceived pain of emptiness or facing, in emptiness is not so painful in itself, but in emptiness, things bubble up. And so then what we call wounds bubble up, and then somehow filling that with an addiction is some way to avoid that. And maybe taking that head on, front on, and just saying that, what do you want to escape by collecting all this stuff, and what do you want to numb by just clouding all your surfaces? And
well, if that comes up for the person in that way, then that's a good approach. There's so many different ways in to see, to look at your own situation and see what's going on. And maybe it's just this sense like you come home one day and you look at your house and you go like, I don't like being at home, it doesn't feel good to come home. And I don't like that feeling. I want to enjoy my house. Or maybe it's the sense like you just ordered something from Amazon and it arrives and you just feel, you don't feel any joy from it at all. It just feels like one more burdenous thing in your house. Then that's another way in.
What probably happens? What happens is anything you lay down, you don't find it anymore. Even the new thing from Amazon, where's that book? Because you've got every surface covered, and one more thing doesn't stand out. You lose your keys, you lose your glasses, you lose your wallet. Everything you lay down is gone. It's just in that sea of thingness. And that's when you start to really take another look and say, oh my God, I'm losing my brains. I forget. You start saying I'm forgetful, right?
Well, clutter is ravenous. It's very hungry. It eats everything. So it eats the things that we don't care about, and it eats the things that we do care about. Things disappear into the clutter. And
so it has no distinctions. It has no distinctions, That's beautiful. That's beautiful to say that.
Yeah, that's the experience. And as people when they do clutter bust and they start to dig through this stuff and dismantle this clutter that's taken over their space, they find things. They find duplicates of stuff. They bought 5 things and they're still wrapped in the packaging. It just got lost, Or they find money, or they find something that a shirt that they really love that they just couldn't notice. And they find a lot of crap, meaning stuff that when it comes down to it, they don't care about. And it really takes dismantling this thing to get your life back. You can't stack it nicely or go to the container store and buy a lot of nice things and put it inside there. Or put it all in the storage locker 10 miles from your house. It's still going to affect you negatively. So when you have the blessing of this insight or the blessing of this inner prompting to start questioning the things in your house, when you dismantle this, things really start coming around for the better. It's nice to know that.
Like with me, you're hitting right on home because I was never really good at business, and I could be good at starting up business. And the reason being is because somehow when I thought out of sight, out of mind, and I hated to file. I couldn't file, and I couldn't, I could, even with the container store, I would start so many filing systems and they would never work. And my filing systems would just be piles on desks and tables and on all the surfaces. And at first that works because then you're only doing 5 things and 10 things and 40 things, and then you got this pile and that pile and that pile. And then pretty soon, when I got bigger and bigger and bigger, my whole life was just about churning through piles, saying, I know this paper's here somewhere,
Yeah.
And churning would always get my goat, I'd think, oh my God. And I was just never very good at that. And clutter it busted me basically on almost all my enterprises.
Yeah. That's why I encourage questioning the clutter monster, if you want to call it, or just the piles. Just to question them and realize it's your house, and for some reason or another you've given over the power to all this stuff and let it rule the house. But it's not really a thing. It's not a living entity. It's stuff. And it's your stuff, and your word matters. Your word is the final word. So you can look through there and start questioning things and go, no, you don't belong here. No, I'm going to let go of you. No, thank you. And start clearing the way. And it's your right, and you're in the right to follow that direction.
So, during our conversation, you're talking a lot about your home and your space and your things and so on. And somehow I'm drawing all these parallels about your mind and your emotions and your perceived past, and your and the pains that you don't want to come up, and so on. But I mean, and it sounds like maybe one is a direct metaphor for the other. And then sometimes we talked about, like, you could work on both fronts at once. And I'm not so sure that you do that. You probably are. It sounds like you're concerned more with the physical manifestation.
I do both, but they're mixed together. I'll be going through something, and the person will say something that's very revealing about how they see the world or see themselves. And they just say it, and it just comes out, slips out, and I point that out to them. They didn't even realize they said it. But it's a very revealing thing about how they see the world. And they get a lot of insight in that moment because they're very open, because they're going through this process of looking. And so they hear this for the first time often. Like, wow, I didn't realize I thought that way. Like that woman who felt she was the evil destroyer of her family's history by getting rid of something that she didn't care about at the end of her bed. That was a very powerful statement for her to make. And I repeated it back to her so she could hear that and realize that was crippling her. That way of seeing the world was not serving her, but some part of her felt like she needed it. She needed to think that way, and it turns out that it was hurting her. So I pointed out to her, and she saw it, and then we went back to the clutter busting. So it's a mixture, and it's so intertwined. But often those personal insights don't come out until the person started looking at their stuff and questioning things, and then it naturally rises to the surface.
In a way, you have to be used to seeing the personal insights, because they can come up and then they're just not taken note of, and then they go back into Never Never Land, and that's kind of like what spiritual seeking, satsang, spiritual teachers, masters, all those things are. People are just giving you a hint that, hey, you could look at this or that thing. Or does that have any meaning? What came up there? And so sometimes it takes a hint, right?
Well, I like to look at those insights that come up. They're things just as much as a book on a table. Your thoughts and feelings and beliefs about things are just as much an actual thing as a shirt hanging in your closet, because you can experience it. And if you can experience it, that's my definition of a thing. You can experience it. And so we're just not used to looking at our thoughts and feelings and insights as things. We just see them as us. And as much as our thumbnail is us, it's just not to be questioned. It's just who we are. And I think we can look at those things too, and look at them with curiosity, Wow, I'm really thinking that way? That's amazing. Wow, that's just incredible. I can't believe that's how I see things.
You've been so successful, I guess, at looking at your space and kind of keeping a clear space, maybe just in your home and your business and wherever your habitat. And also, probably you've been quite successful at having a clear mind and some kind of clear space within yourself. So much so that you've actually kind of offered this service to other people and even made a business. And so then share a little bit about the inner revolution, or what's your life like in living in this clarity, and without all these extraneous objects, and just having things that you can love.
Oh, well, I'm very entertained by the world. You know, like the world is very like right now I'm looking out the window. And I'm looking at the trees, and the trees are really beautiful to me. They feel um, like if you looked out the window and saw a dog. It's like it feels like it's alive to me, and the branches all look different, and the leaves are really pretty, and the way the shade and the sun cascades on the trees. It's like it's I really relish that stuff. It makes me happy, and so a lot of my days I notice things. And I think there's a lot more of me available to be aware of what's going on around me, um, because of the way I live and the way I see things, and it's very fulfilling, you know. And I have stuff that I like. I have my guitars, and I love playing my guitars, and they're out in the open, so that if I feel like playing a song, I'll just get one and start playing, and there's a lot of enjoyment in that. And I'm aware of my thoughts that come up a lot, and I don't stop everything I'm doing and look at my thoughts, but it comes up in an instant, and it's laid out just like the trees were over there, and then another thought comes in, you know, and the next activity comes in. So there's a lot of things that happen, and that are very pleasing to me, you know. And I'm enjoying this interview. I mean, it's really nice to sit here and talk with you, and you know, we talked on the phone the other day, but here we are talking a little bit longer, and so here's a whole new experience for me, a whole new person, and I'm talking with you, and it's like these thoughts are coming up that I've never thought about before, involving clutter and insights, and so I'm really enjoying the process of that. So I think there's a lot of subtlety that is available for enjoyment in life, and so over time I think I've learned to not rely on all the products to make me happy. There's just a lot of really interesting things all around me to enjoy, and I have a really good curiosity, so my curiosity finds its way in and loves to investigate. So
What comes to me now is just that from a clearer space, you're saying that your thoughts stand out more because there's not so many thoughts coming. And so then each thought has its own value. And then I just thought that, I just noticed that probably when there's so many thoughts and when there's so much clutter, one of the easiest ways to deal with it is to get numb. And so that clutter is actually a force of anti-life. Basically, you want to numb and retract from life, and that's how you cope with all this mega quantity of thinking.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, people. I think as a culture, we're very. We get exhausted, and we shut down like a machine, or like for those people who have shredders, it's like if you're using a shredder, at some point it overheats and it shuts down. And I think as human beings, the same thing happens to us. The part of us just collapses, so that we can start to recharge and take care of ourselves. So there's that much less of us available, and I think that's how clutter intrudes. You know, it's like things start. You know, it's like we're building a wall to protect ourselves.
It really intrudes, you know. It really intrudes because, you know, like you're saying, a perfect thing that we need to shut down. It's too much for us to cope with, and so then the numbing becomes an important part of life. Numbing is like not being alive, and then in order to kind of handle it, you're saying we have to take another shot of coffee, and then we get onto stimulants. And then it gets to be a point where like there's no part of our life where we're not on a stimulant or actually coming down from a stimulant. So our body is always, always, always detoxing, and we feel like crap. You know, we feel terrible, and we could go decades and decades and never have one moment where our body is just a pure clean device. You know that.
Well, I think that's why people get tired sometimes when they're clutter busting. I've had clients almost fall asleep on me sometimes because there's so much exhaustion in there. And once you start getting rid of these distractions, the distractions themselves are stimulants, then you no longer have this amping up and you start to get tired because your body's like, I want to lay down and go to sleep, you know. And I get it. It's really that's when you need the compassion for yourself to go, all right, I really want to take care of myself. I want to stop relying on all these other things to either stimulate me or numb me, you know. So otherwise, like imagine if you were being attacked and you're being attacked on all sides. So the only thing you can do is curl up into a ball and cover up your head. And sometimes that's what being overwhelmed and living with clutter is like. You just seal yourself off from the world, numbing yourself with all these things around you. But it's not in the long run, it's not a solution. It takes you down as much as this stuff does. And I think the only way to do it is to start to dismantle it. And that's how you get your life back. And there's something about when you take care of your life, it starts to take care of you. And so new solutions start to come out of this. As you dismantle stuff, new insights and ways of living come to you. Like, you know, I think I'd like to do this. I'd like to do this activity. Or take more quiet time for myself. Or like you said, sit in a room with just a chair and a light. Or I need to like go outside and go for walks. Like whatever comes to you. But you have that opportunity once you start getting rid of all these distractions and numbing devices.
Brooks, we're saying such amazing things, you know. I mean, I had been saying that just lately, just a day ago or something, I was doing some kind of recording where I was saying that the real key is participating in some small things and making some small space where something new can come in. And whether it grows organically, step by step, and maybe it's a huge change in your life, or whether it's just something that was fun for a moment and can be discarded. But I mean, even that is kind of like there's a preamble to that, and that preamble is somehow to dismantle something, you know, either your mind or your environment or your collection of goods. Something needs some space needs to be really made so you can allow yourself to just say yes to something new.
Well, yeah, you get that opportunity. Once you're no longer inundated, you have the opportunity it comes to you, the openness is available. And who knows what'll come in. That's the amazing thing about the world. It's like, oftentimes if I had these 5 things, then I'm going to be okay and I'm taken care of. But there's an innumerable amount of things out there that can take care of us, that we just do that we didn't even know about. And by eliminating the things we don't care about, it really allows these other possibilities that we've never thought of to come in and heal us in whatever way is going to benefit us. And that's very exciting, you know? Who knows? Who knows what they'll be?
It's so profound. And I'm so grateful that you contacted me, and I'm so grateful to talk to Brooks Palmer.
Well, it's been a delight talking with you, Richard. You're very insightful, and you have a great way of seeing things that I appreciate.
Okay, I appreciate too. And I totally appreciate all our viewers, and I hope you really like this one. This is really like fundamental, really a key. And thanks to Brooks Palmer, he's in Chicago, and if we want to have a session, I'm sure he'll accommodate you.
I forgot to mention, I have a book called Clutter Busting, Letting Go of What's Holding You Back. And if you want some more insights, that's a good place to go.
Thank you, Brooks.
Thanks, Richard.